New information shows Facebook gave its corporate partners extensive access to users' personal data. They did it for years, and they did it without asking permission.
A report in the New York Times cites internal documents to show Facebook made data sharing deals with dozens of the world's other tech giants. The companies had access to information like users' private messages and the names of virtually all of their Facebook friends. It's the latest privacy scandal to hit the social media platform.
Now, tech companies are pushing back on some parts of the report. Amazon is the latest to respond, saying it only uses information in accordance with its privacy policy. Tony Dokoupil has more on all of this.
Hey, Anne-Marie and Brooke. The Times says it reviewed hundreds of pages of documents and interviewed about 50 former employees and corporate partners. The Times allegedly found Facebook collects more information on people than almost any other private corporation in history.
At a congressional hearing in April, CEO Mark Zuckerberg insisted the data of Facebook's more than 2 billion users is safe.
Yes or no, is Facebook limiting the amount or type of data Facebook itself collects or uses?
Congressman, yes, we limit a lot of the data that we collect and use.
But according to a new report in the New York Times, for years, Facebook struck deals to share users' personal data with more than 150 companies, including Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon. Among the allegations in the report, Facebook allowed Spotify, Netflix, and the Royal Bank of Canada to read, write, and delete users' private messages. Amazon was able to obtain users' names and contact information through their friends. And Microsoft's Bing was able to see the names of virtually all Facebook users' friends without consent.
We have a basic responsibility to protect people's data. And if we can't do that, then we don't deserve to have the opportunity to serve people.
Privacy issues, security breaches, and the distribution of fake news has plagued Facebook for months. The scandals have forced Zuckerberg and Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg to publicly apologize.
We know that we did not do a good enough job protecting people's data, and I'm really sorry for that, and Mark's really sorry for that.
The Times reports Facebook's partners were able to seek the data of hundreds of millions of people a month. The Times says the deals were all active in 2017, and some were still in effect this year. In a statement to CBS News, Facebook said its partners don't get to ignore people's privacy settings, and it's wrong to suggest that they do, adding, "We know we've got work to do to regain people's trust, and that's where we've been focused for most of 2018.
And this could be more than just a PR battle for Facebook. A 2011 settlement agreement with the Federal Trade Commission requires Facebook to obtain consumers' consent before sharing their information. A Facebook spokesperson told The Times most of its partnerships did not require this because it considered the partners extensions of itself. Pretty clever. Facebook says it found no evidence any of its partners abused users' data. And speaking of those partners, in a statement to CBS News, Netflix said, "At no time did we access people's private messages on Facebook or ask for the ability to do so." A spokesperson for Microsoft's Bing said, "Throughout our engagement with Facebook, we respected all user preferences."
Tony, thank you. Jennifer Greigel is an assistant professor of communications at Syracuse University's Newhouse School. Very happy you're here, Jennifer, because, much like these data breach stories that seem to pop up every couple of weeks, it seems like with Facebook, too, we're getting more and more information about what they're doing with their data. And after a while, you can just you get the glazed face because you don't really know what it means. But you do. Mm-hmm. What stood out to you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, for starters, they talked to over 50 people that either work or worked at Facebook. I think employees there are starting to understand that maybe some of the stuff that they were working on weren't very ethical practices. Some of them have been locked up through non-disclosure agreements. I think they're even starting to think, hey, maybe I should be speaking out. And they're talking to the New York Times and others. And I think it's because they realize ultimately that user privacy was really violated at the company business level.
Mm-hmm. So we've got kind of two different flavors of response. From the partner companies, they say, well, we either didn't know we had this access, we didn't use this access, or we used it in an appropriate way, or a way that was disclosed to our users on our end. Different ways of saying, not us. On the Facebook end, they have, and Tony got to it in his package, this way more nuanced, almost pretzel-y explanation that they didn't have to ask Facebook users for their consent because these other entities were actually part of their service.
Yeah, they were trying to say they were kind of an extension of Facebook somehow.
Right.
And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But
Netflix isn't Facebook, right? But they're trying to essentially, both the companies, all the companies are coming together to try and pool their data to essentially, do more targeted advertisements to grow and scale. That's why they're mega companies. They're Microsofts, they're Amazons, they're Netflix. And I don't buy it when these companies are like, well, we didn't know. They're throwing Facebook a little bit under the bus. They watched their bottom line, they watched their businesses grow, and they knew that they were getting more access somehow.
Speaking of that, Facebook also said, listen, our partners can't violate your privacy settings. That's a given. When I heard that, I thought, well, if anything, we've seen through the whole Cambridge Analytica investigation that sometimes Facebook doesn't monitor their partner apps very well. Knowing that you have a privacy setting in place, should you feel at ease, or is that not going to be enough protection?
I would say at this point that Facebook is a company that has shown that they are violating your privacy, especially as we're seeing with the latest New York Times report. These companies were able to go through and see what your friends were doing. Nobody signed up for Facebook saying, I want you, Facebook, to go peer on what my friends are doing. I want you to be able to go spy on what my friends are sharing. No, that's an absolute no. No one would have agreed to that. And so I think they violated the trust. And it's only through essentially these poorly written terms of service agreements that don't even state some of this stuff in there. So the bottom line is you just need to trust them, and they have not earned it. Mark said, hey, we need to earn your trust. No, he hasn't.
So how do they go about doing that? And how do we know whether we can give them credit for getting better? This story and most of them are about things that happened mostly years in the past, maybe inching into last year or the early parts of this year. Facebook, and they are not alone. Can we underline that? Facebook is not alone.
Yeah.
Google has at least as much on us, and they've got a bit of they've kind of slipped the negative coverage in recent months because these type of stories haven't come out. But how do we know where to place the blame and where to place the credit if Facebook really is trying to make a good effort, a good faith effort to improve?
We need a general data privacy rule. So you're right. It doesn't just, Facebook is at the center of this because they really kind of opened up this way to collect data on us coding all of our favorite things and cultural identity pieces. But it's these other data partners as well. They were in on this too. So we can't just trust these companies at this point. The FTC has consent decrees in place, but they have not enforced them. What we need is more regulation in this space and more self-regulation as well. So we need a kind of a two-pronged approach.
So government involvement.
Absolutely.
Do you have any faith? There's been an awful lot of committee meetings and testimony, and do you see things moving in the right direction?
I think that Europe is leading the way. One reason is that these are U.S. companies. They were, kind of raised up here. They're headquartered here. We exported certain pieces of our law. They were created under essentially our regulatory structure in mind, and then we exported them outside the country. And people around the world are saying, no, we're not cool with this. We don't want this. So I think we're going to see Europe leading the way and bringing maybe some of that regulatory structure here into the United States. So it's going to take time, though, and I don't think we're properly motivated here in the States because these are U.S. companies. We don't want them to go overseas.
Yeah. We're getting there.
But I also think we're not outraged enough. As
you're not
at the
outraged.
She's pretty outraged.
But I feel like you know what? But I got my Facebook page up. I'm probably gonna go on there and do a personality quiz. I'm gonna admit it. And so I think that's part of it. Is we're willing to sort of trade this.
Well, maybe you should go out and take some BuzzFeed quizzes or something that's not connected to Facebook. But I don't know. I logged off yesterday.
Like they don't have cookies at BuzzFeed.
Yeah, right. But I logged out yesterday. The NAACP, right? We saw even around the Russian reports that came out this week, they were targeting, black individuals. True. And I think we need to just at this point say, hey, we need to step back and start to get some of these social networks out of our life, connect with people in real life so we know who they are more, and start to question how we're using these products.
Jennifer Greigel, we should have you on to talk more about that.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.